All right, and we are live. So thank you for coming on the podcast. Well, we've just had a little conversation before this, but this is new to me as well. Like, I don't know a massive amount about you other than obviously what we've, just from the Instagram and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, run me through who you are, what you do. Like, tell me a bit. Tell us all a little bit about yourself.
Not much to tell. No, I'm joking. So I'm an online PT. I think that's the best place to start. I am from England, but as you can tell from the lovely picture above, based in Australia. Moved out here just over 2 years ago. And reason for that was back home, I was battling with my mental health. So I just sort of thought I need to change things up, get a different environment. Previous to that, I appeared on Love Island in 2017. Back in the day, only for about 3 minutes though. But yeah, just out here with my Instagram, as you've probably seen, I'm just trying to improve people's holistic health, not just bodies. I think a lot of people get caught up in that. Oh yeah, I just want to make people look a certain way. But for me, like, yeah, it's great to transform someone's body, but to transform their mind, make them look at themselves with kinder eyes, it's just far more important to me. So that is a quick summary of myself, I guess.
I like that because I knew you were doing the fitness stuff, but I didn't realize you were incorporating, the kind of the confidence, self-esteem, essentially the mindset stuff within.
Yeah, massively.
It's so important.
Without a doubt. So I've got a podcast as well that's more focused around mental health, but obviously that's like, so fitness is like a huge passion of mine, clearly. But mental health is like up there as well. So I was kind of doing fitness here, mental health here, but now, like, it's amazing how much they affect each other. So yeah, just trying to bring it all together in one, really, and just improve people's lives rather than just making them look a certain way for a holiday or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's the lifestyle shift then, isn't it? Rather than just like a, quick in, quick out diet type thing. It's giving people the tools so that they can actually move forward in their, in their lives and not have to kind of keep going back in circles and things like that. It's just breaking the...
That's exactly it. Like, for me, the main thing for me, like I say, I want to transform lives, but what I tell my clients when they sign up is, I'm not here to get you results, because any PT can get you results. I'm here to get you results, but make sure you can keep them going forward. And I think, like, your mentality is a key part to that. Like, when I was younger, I used to train all the time, but I was just focused on the way I looked, and therefore my self-image, even though I was in good shape, I always looked at myself as if like, you need to improve this, you need to do that, la la la. But then, since I battled my own depression and mental health, I'd say my focus completely shifted on the way things make me feel. And since then, like, my body's got better, but more importantly, like, I just feel so much better about myself and life, which is what I want to, that's the main reason why I do what I do. I want to give that feeling to people.
So the podcast name, I was going to talk to you about this a little bit later on, is called Stressed,
Depressed.
Stressed, Depressed, and Now Blessed.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I got one of the one episodes saved, actually, but I haven't listened to it. I haven't listened to podcasts in a while myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
But no, I have got one of yours on my list. So anybody listening, Stressed, Depressed, and Now Blessed. Where's it on Spotify and stuff like that, is it?
Spotify, Apple, and it's just really, there's some episodes, like the first few episodes are just about my battle with mental health, taking me up to a point where I was on the day that I was considering committing suicide. And then I guess others are around my mindset shift away from that. There's podcasts with different guests that inspire me or that have had an encounter with mental health, whether that be helping people away from their battles with mental health or experiencing it themselves. So it just covers a wide variety of things. Like, my latest episode obviously, I don't know if you saw the Caroline Flack and Roman Kemp docs last week.
I haven't seen it yet. No, I haven't seen it yet.
So they're a really good watch. Like, I don't really watch much telly, but obviously, as I say, mental health is like so close to my heart. So I checked them out, and they were both about suicide. So then the latest episode is about suicide, and just sort of telling people that when you get to that point, it's not you want to die. It's just you want to be out of your own head, and just to think in that moment that you don't want to end it. You just want to get away from the way you're thinking. So maybe take a thought, reach out to someone, because people, I think when you're in that position, you feel so lonely. But like I say now, no one loves me more now than they did when I was battling with my mental health. It's just the way that I see their love that has changed. So I think that's important for everyone to realize that they are still loved, even though if their mind is telling them they're not.
Man, that's a really, really good point. That's a really good. I think there's a lot of people out there that need to hear that. Needed to hear that. I think when people listen to that, that's like the way what you've said there is, I've had probably like suicidal thoughts when I was younger, but never like, it was never kind of right. I'm going to go and do this type things. You know what I mean? It was just the thought. So I've never got to that stage, thankfully.
Yeah.
But like obviously with yourself now, obviously you've got to that stage where it's been quite a prominent thought in your mind, I'm guessing. I think what you said about it's not that you want to end it, but you just want out of the pain. I think and also then just transferring or transmuting what people were thinking about the people around them, because I think that's a big thing with depression, isn't it? You push people away. You push
100%,
and you're not. If you feel almost like people hate you, or they're talking about you behind your back and things like that. Whereas that's not really the case. It's just like you said, how perceiving it to be.
I feel like you manifest that situation in your head. So if you act towards people like, I reckon they're talking, like, for example, I'd go out with my mates at the time. They didn't know that I was battling with my mental health. I'd be having a chat with them like this, but then say one of my other mates would talk to the person I was talking to, interrupt me, and then they would start having a conversation rather than having a conversation with me. It happens all the time, but I would really I'd really take that to heart, and I'd be like, well, obviously you don't want me here. But now if that was to happen, I'd be like, oh, fair, like it's just a normal conversation between blokes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it massively is the way you see things, and it's just so key to understand that and realize, like, I think the biggest thing for me to realize was that it's very much your perception of the situation rather than what is actually going on. And that is what the hardest part of battling with your mental health is, because it's in your head. It's not reality, if that makes sense.
No, it is. I'd say probably, easy 75% and 90% of the, the thoughts that we have are just thoughts that live in our brain. They're not actually within our reality. Like, like I said, but they're, people talking about us, things like that. We kind of make those things up in our head a lot of the time, when in actual fact, they're probably not happening. And I think there's a lot of people out there who will fail to start something new, or are anxious to start something new. They're like, oh, well, I'm fearful of going to this particular new gym because people are going to be laughing at me. They're going to be taking the piss. They're going to be
100%
fat, or I'm this and that, or whatever. And it's kind of like, it's a lot of that is in their own mind. You know what I mean? Or it might be just because of experiences they've had once or twice before in very isolated situations, or it might have been in like school, where school is a very judgmental place, because there's a lot of there's a lot of insecurities in children, insecurities
100%.
they haven't addressed because they haven't really had the life experience to address it. And I think when you're getting bullied, it's usually those other people's insecurities they're pushing on to you,
projecting. They project it onto you, don't they? And then you just absorb that as like, oh, that must be facts, when it really isn't. Do you know what I mean? Like when you say about being fearful and whatever. Like, obviously I'm an online coach now. There's a massive online coach. His name's James Smith. I don't know if you've heard of him. Probably have.
No, yeah, I followed James for quite a while. Yeah.
So in 2018, I emailed him to say, I love your lifestyle. I love that you change people's lives. Like, how do I do that? And then he literally come back to me, told me how to do it. But because of the fear in my own heart and head, I was like, I talked myself out of it. I was like, oh, it'll never happen for me. But thankfully, like 2 years later, I think what is a blessing from my battle with mental health is now I'm not saying I'm hard and I'm not scared of anything, but it's taken away so much fear, because I know that I'll never fight a harder battle than that. So therefore, nothing seems impossible to me. Does that make sense?
No,
do you know what I mean?
Sense, yeah.
So it's eliminated that fear, which does live in a lot of people, even with people that want to change, people that I speak to that are unconfident, unfulfilled, like really unhappy with what they see in the mirror. They'll stay in that comfort zone or that feeling of negativity because they're scared and fearful that they'll be that one person that doesn't get results, which I always say the hardest step in any transformation is just deciding to start. Once you're there, like, the journey is easy, but you're the only person that can. It's like, even when I was battling with my mental health, like, I knew all of the things that I should do to get my mind back to where it needs to be, but I wasn't doing any of them. And until I decided enough is enough, like, I don't want to keep feeling this way, that's when things started to change for me.
Do you know what? That we're all great at giving advice, I think, in life, right? We're all great at giving advice, but when it comes to actually using the advice we're giving, we're terrible. Do you know what I mean? I know
100%.
I've always been good at giving advice, right? But then when it comes to taking it myself, I've got to find little. I always find loopholes, right? So a few people, good friends, they say to me, "You'll find a loophole in anything." Do you know what I mean? Because I always find a loophole. But it's no good, because the only person you're cheating then is yourself, and I've had to kind of adopt little methods of stopping myself from doing that. You know what I mean? Stop myself loopholes, things like that.
Well, I think it's like self-sabotage, isn't it? Sort of thing. Like, I know exactly what a perfect day looks like for me, and that by a perfect day, I mean, like, what's in my control. So for example, my morning routine is I get up, I go for a swim, listen to Audible, stretch, meditate. But there'll be days where I'll be like, I can't bother to do that. But then on those days, I know I feel shitter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
spot on.
But so it's just
if we touch on that,
everyone does it.
If we touch on that, right? So obviously there's certain days that you said you don't do, like, the morning routine, or all of the morning routine, isn't it? Or is it? Yeah, like, I think we all have those little days, don't we? What I find is that a lot of people, let's like social media as an example, when we're putting up that we're going and doing these particular things every morning. So people think that I get up early every morning, right? I do get up early most mornings. In the summer, in the winter, I don't, right? In the winter, I've actually given up from this year on. With this year just gone, I decided this winter, I was like, I'm going to wake up in accordance with the sunlight, pretty much. So I'm going to wake up at like 7:38 a.m. Go down for the sea dip and whatever, and crack on. My day starts a little bit later. Whereas in the summer months, I'm up 5:30, 6 o'clock or something like that. But people see on my social media, oh, Ryan's up early, and they're like, I've had people message me like, do you even sleep? Because I'm like active till about 12 o'clock or something, and then I'm back up by 6 a.m. or whatever. And I think there's this almost like deception that goes on with social media. Like, people see, oh, you get up and you're meditating, or you're running, or you're this and that or whatever. And they think that you do it every single day. But I think it's important to realize that the people who are generally doing that, like you've said, but there's always those days where you just don't end up doing it, or you end up sleeping in, and maybe had a couple of beers the night before, so you don't end up waking up and going and this and that. But like, it's, I think discipline is something that it doesn't come overnight. consistency and discipline,
Definitely
I think,
not.
build over like a long period of time, but keep working on and not get down on yourself when you maybe have those 1 or 2 days where you fall off. You know, it's just
I think
recognizing.
that's massive.
Hmm.
Like perspective is, with your mental health, with your physical health, perspective is like so key in my opinion. Like, I'll have clients, or even with myself, I could train like 6 hours of jits in a week, and then I won't go to the gym at all that week, and I'll be like, oh my god, I've been so lazy. But realistically, have I? But that's just my perspective, because my level is usually so high in regards to, well, this is my norm. So if I drop below that, like for example, this week, I've been for like, usually I swim about 2 to 3K a week. I've swam 1K this week. So then I'm like, well, this has been a shit week. Like, I've not been on it, la 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 la. But even today when I was doing my swim, I was like, well, 1K is better than nothing. And it's not the thing that people fail to understand when they get in these headspaces is, whatever is more consistent is the habit. So if I swim, this is the first week I think I've not swam 2K this year, but I'm like, oh, what am I playing with myself? What am I playing at? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Whereas with perspective, all right, you've had one bad week in, what is it, 12 since the start of the year. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is absolutely fine. You are human. Like, you're not a robot. And it's like with my clients, I never program over the weekend unless they want workouts, because for me, if you're good 5 days, then you've got 2 days in the bank to absolutely have fun, enjoy yourself, go on the piss, whatever it may be, live life, because fitness and health shouldn't take over your life. It should just fit in seamlessly with your life. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that is a key point. Like, because again, as humans, I think we just beat ourselves up so much when we're actually doing a lot of good things, but straight away, if there's a negative there, that will just literally jump on top of the good and you won't even see it.
Yeah. There's something I've done for quite it's probably like nearly a year now, maybe a bit under a year or something like that, right? So I've got a book. I think it's, you know, like, it's like an old school maths book almost, right? Similar to that. It's got the little squares in it. So it's not line paper, it's the squares. And what I'll do is I'll put, like, I don't know, say 8 to 10, or sometimes it's less now, sometimes it's 5, or, you know, sometimes it's a little bit more, different habits that I want to instill every day, right? So some of them are very simple, like make the bed. Okay, so one of them's make the bed, one of them's drink 2 liters of water, one of them's get 3 fruit or more. You know, another one's meditate, stretch, workout, for example. Like they're things that I will generally do most days anyway, right? But like, what I'll tend to do is I'll add a couple of extra ones on then, so it gives me a bit of a prompt to do this particular thing that I might slack off on some days, right? But what I'll do is I'll tick every single day of the month that I do these things. So what you said there, right, is like, if someone misses a workout, or they miss 2 workouts in a row, for example, like 2 days working out, if you aren't monitoring like the totality of the month, you know, like, let's say you've worked for the last 17 days, but they've had 2 days off. So they'll like you said, they'll focus on those 2 days and go, oh, you know, fuck, I didn't work out, you know,
100%.
they feel like shit, blah blah blah, whatever. And like you said, they internalize it, they get down on themselves because of it. But then if you've got a way of recording it, and you go, like, you look at your little book and you go, do you know what, I haven't worked at these but I've got 17 days worth of ticks per year. It's all about, you know, looking at that, focusing on the positive aspect of it, rather than the 2 days you miss, because your body probably needs it, you know, if you're missing it. Then
I think that's a sick way to set things up. I might actually get myself a maths book, because although, like, I'm in a good mental state, if I am so hard on myself, and like, this week I have felt a little bit off the ball, and I'm beating myself up for that. But then I'm not really thinking, well, I work weekends not because I have to, but I just love what I do. I want to be there for my clients. So having a couple of off days or whatever, it really isn't bad in the grand scheme of things. But again, that's where a lot of focus goes, because your level is at where is here, or you want to get up here. Do you know what I mean? So then you think, right, well, if I'm not there for a week, then what's going to happen going forward? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want
But
to
I think
fall
that's
off. I think that's the key thing, is you don't fall off entirely, from everything that you're doing.
yeah,
I mean, it does happen every now and again, but it gives you the prompt to get it back on track. Like this is something I do with all my clients, so that for the mindset stuff, but specifically with the
yeah,
accountability. Essentially, it's two different elements of the same thing. The accountability fits quite well in with the mindset, and the mindset fits in with the
yeah,
accountability. Just, the accountability stuff is generally for people who are professional, generally more professionally in professions, or got their own business and things like that, and they're looking at
yeah.
being held accountable for breaking habits or making habits, and moving forward and seeing the progress they make. And you're incorporating a lot of the mindset stuff with it, but it's something I do with all of them. And like I said, I do it myself on a normal book, but it's the power of consistency is
It's
unbelievable.
mad.
I
Like,
didn't realize
I,
how powerful it is until I started doing like just a few things consistently.
well, I think for me, I've always, since a very, very young age, I've like always thought I'm gonna have my own business one day.
Mm.
Like, and then I'd think to myself, I'd look around and I'd know people that had their own businesses, and no disrespect to them, but I'd look at some people and I'd be like, how have you got your own business?
Mm.
You're not, I would, even at a young age, I'd be like, I'm more intelligent than you. So how have you got a unbelievable business
Mm.
now? So from a young age, I sort of realized that there must have been something that everyone can possess that can make you successful.
Mm.
Because you don't need to be Einstein to be consistent. Do you know what I mean? Anyone can be consistent. And I think that is compounded in results. Like it's like anything. If you're consistent with anything over time, you will hit a result, whether that be positive or negative. If you're eating shit food all the time, you're going to get fat. If you're working out all the time, you will lose weight. Do you know what I mean? It's just whatever you do consistently will come to fruition later in your life.
Do you know what I think as well, right? Is in school, I typically think, right, that like kind of blue-blooded entrepreneurs, people who are, not to use just the buzz term of an entrepreneur, but someone who's like, who thinks outside the box, who sets up their own business
Yeah.
and kind of makes those, takes the risks and things like that. I would say that the majority of them, in my opinion, and this might not be right, but like in my opinion, they were typically people who have done not so well in school, or maybe messed around in school at the least.
Yeah.
I do think
100%.
you
But
hear these kind of stories, and about like Richard Branson and people like that, they've got maybe
yeah.
difficulties and things like that. Or I do think that there's different traits to somebody who will go on and like be able to take those risks and think differently.
I think a lot of people that I know that are doing their own thing now, if you was to look at their school reports, it would have been, well, my school report was always, Nathan's got so much potential if he applied himself.
Yeah, exactly the same as me. Yeah.
But for me, the way my mind works is, why am I going to apply myself to something that I don't really care about? Do you know what I mean? Like if you've got my interest, I'm all in. Yeah. So for example, when I was at school, I was predicted like A's and A stars at GCSE. I ended up getting like 6 B's and 6 C's because none of the subjects really set my world alight. I was like, okay, well, I'll do it because I have to, but it's not something that I want to do. And that was the same when I worked in the corporate world. Like I worked in recruitment. People was like, yeah, you've got what it takes, but I was like, I don't find passion in getting people jobs. Like then I'd say that contributed to my battle with mental health as well. Like not finding my purpose.
Yeah.
But then, as you say, I think that the entrepreneur mind is, when you're at school, I feel like they are people that get bored and therefore start messing about in the class clown, whatever it is, because their attention or what drives them isn't being ignited. So therefore it's just like, well, my brain's going to wander over here and here. Do you know what I mean?
You touched on something really good, but there as well, the clarity thing. So like, you know, about, like you said, you think that the not knowing your purpose was something that contributed to, like, you know, your depression,
Massively.
the, you know, the mental health, you know, issues that you were facing at that point. And it's, I advocate, I talk about this quite a lot in terms of like clarity. So it's not like, if you can find your purpose, great, you know, but having clarity about what you're doing and what you've got in your life, like that's the key essentially to not the key, but one of the main keys and ways to actually get yourself into a good mental state. So like let's say, for example, now with a relationship, if there's uncertainty within a relationship, if you're uncertain about the partner you're with, the person you're seeing, that's not a lack of clarity, and it's going to, that uncertainty is going to lead you to doubt what you're in that for, and doubt yourself, and start thinking spiral. And that's a, you know, a road then to kind of those depressive thoughts and things like that, I think, if you've got that lack of certainty. Likewise with a job especially, because we spend a lot of time there, you know, if there's a lack of clarity in why you're at the job, if you know, right, I'm in this job because I want to earn money, because I want to live this lifestyle and blah, 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 blah. And you've got a little bit more clarity about it and you're happy with that. I think even that, you know, you can be fine with that. But 100%. Like I know exactly about that.
I used to rock up to work and I'd be like, in my head, I'd be like, I am more than this. I am not somebody that should be chained to a desk. And because of that, every day I'd go into work and I'd have this, I'd drag myself to work and I'd have this battle. I'm new from a very, like, even my first few jobs, when there's an opportunity to climb the ladder, I was like, well, I don't want to climb the ladder because I'm not interested in doing this. This is not my life. And because of that, I suppressed it for as long as I could. And then it was like, fucking hell, you're 25, 26, 27. What are you doing with your life? And then that sort of imploded in on me because I didn't have that clarity. And then that was a huge contribution, because where I'm from in England, it's a place called Upminster. It's about 20 minutes from Liverpool Street in London. So everyone from my town, like, you go school, go college, maybe you go uni, but then you just get a job in the city and then that's your life. And all the time I'd tell myself, like, that cannot be it. Like, there has got to be more to life than just a 20-minute train journey. Yeah. And because I wasn't doing, again, that comes to, as I said to you at the start, like, it comes down to me wanting to and having to make that change, not waiting for someone to make that change for me. But because I wasn't changing, I was like, something will happen. Maybe I'll win the lottery. I was just doing that journey for 3 years, whatever it was. And it just had its toll. But at the same time, I'm glad it did, because now that fear of doing that is a massive driver for me now in what I do.
Me and you have walked a very similar road, I think, mine. I think you've just walked it a little bit sooner than what I have. But, you know, like, almost, because like you said, yours was about 3 years ago. You had that kind of realization where you were just like, fuck this, I gotta go. So about 3 years ago, you said.
Yeah.
So mine would have been about less than a year ago. So less than a year ago, I kind of I quit my job in Swansea University. I was working, you know, really good paid job, you know, reputable company, you know, quite a senior role, and I physically, it got to the point, right, during the lockdown, I physically couldn't do the job anymore. I couldn't send an email because I had that much of a mental block on. And I was like, I knew I was in a good place mentally, right? Because, you know, at this point, I'd started to coach clients and stuff. But I'm like, I can't do this work. Like, when it comes to my own stuff, when it comes to helping people, everything's fine. Like I knew I was in a sound mental health, but I was like, I physically can't do this job anymore. And it was almost like something was fucking dragging me back. I'm trying to do the work, and it was like, no, you're not. And in the end, I literally just quit the job. I had a 3-month notice period, but I finished after 2 weeks. I didn't have, at this point, I didn't have any clients. I didn't have any clients. I didn't have, I had an idea of what I was going to be doing, and, and the vision. But the thing was, like, I think you probably had this as well. I knew it was going to work out. I knew everybody else was going to think I was crazy, and they were right to do so. But I knew that it was the right path to walk. And I just kind of, it sounds like woo woo and a bit cliche or whatever, but you've got to trust in your gut. Sometimes you really have. I think
like massively, like, so when I came to Australia,
yeah,
I didn't come to set up an online business, obviously. So the year before, I'd sort of put myself through, my company's called Built in 100, because I put myself through a 100-day transformation. I weren't expecting to make it into a business or anything, but it was like, I wanted to enjoy my social life. I wanted my mindset to be better than it was massively. And I was sick of getting in shape through ridiculous means and then falling back out of shape. And I hated that process of, okay, I hate training. I hate going to the gym twice a day, eating next to nothing. And then as soon as I get onto a holiday or the festival is over or whatever the occasion was, then I'm fish and chips, pizza, curry every other night, whatever it may be. And then I feel shit again. So then I think, oh, you're getting fat. And the cycle was just never ending.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Australia, then I didn't have any thoughts of setting up a business. I'd done loads of solar farming to get a second-year visa. And then I started a recruitment job over here last January. And I'd already said to myself, I'll never, ever go back into recruitment because I hate it. But they'll give you a sponsorship there.
Right.
After 3 weeks, I was like, I literally can't do this. So that's when I just started posting fitness content. But it got to, I'd say like May time, I think I had like 2 or 3 clients, and I was earning probably like $450 a month, which is about 225 quid from my coaching. And I just said in my head, I was like, I'm going to quit this job because I know that this is for me. I don't, like, money don't matter. The buzz I get from changing people, that is all I'm going to do. And no matter what happens in life, this is me. This is going to work. So it is just, like you say, it is very cliche, but once you find that thing, you just won't let anything stop you from getting to the point where you want to go, I guess. And that's just a massive driver, isn't it? And now I've been full-time for 9 months. So yeah.
That's awesome, right? That is awesome. It's good to hear, like, it's good to hear that someone else who's done it, right? Because, right, so like, obviously, I think you look at James Smith as an example, right? So obviously James Smith, he's built a very successful business, in a very similar context to what you have as well, hasn't he? I think he probably, I think, like, he did well. I think he started it 4 or 5 years ago. I think his journey when he came to Oz and set up and stuff like that, wasn't it? And I think, with James, you kind of look at it and you think, right, he's got like 750,000 followers and whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think people see, they see that, and it's almost like it seems really far away. It seems almost like unattainable. But then when you speak into that, like, yourself then as well, and the story, you're talking about your story and the stuff you've been through. It's like, well, a year ago, you were in the same boat as probably a lot of people which are listening right now, and in that year, you have literally built, a successful business, and you're obviously living in Sydney, which is not fucking cheap, let's be honest. So you're able to run your own business living in Sydney, like, it's good, isn't it? That's the goal. And I think, like you said, you've just got to take that leap of faith. It does, I'm not obviously not advocating for people to just fucking quit their jobs, like I did, because I did, lucky enough, I my father, so I had a fail safe, I had a safety net, because I'm like, worst case scenario, if the business doesn't work, I can get a job somewhere. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like the worst case scenario for me wasn't that bad. If people have got a house, if they got kids and things like that, it's always a little bit more difficult because you're thinking about someone else and
Yeah.
a larger picture. But, if you're able to take a calculated risk, a calculated leap of faith, especially if you're not really enjoying stuff, because you like you said on the start, if you're doing something that doesn't resonate with you, if it like you don't love it, you're not passionate about it, if it's making you ill or making you sick or making, when I say ill or sick, I mean, mentally ill, mentally sick, or sometimes
Yeah.
actually physically as well, it's not good for you. There's nothing that's worth your peace in life. In my
At
opinion,
all.
I think there is. I think
I
relationships,
think,
stuff like that, it's not worth it.
yeah, I think for me as well, like I saw a meme one day. I can't remember when it was. It might have been years back, but it was about following your dreams and whatever. And all it was a picture of, like pool noodles, like the foam things that you whack each other with in the swimming pools. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it just literally said, it was like, someone is a millionaire because of this idea. Yeah. So that just shows no matter how stupid you think your idea is or what you want to do is, like, someone is literally a millionaire off making a bit of tube made out of foam with a hole in the middle. Like, how that in my opinion, that idea is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
That's such a good point.
do you know what I mean? Like, but if someone can do that, why can't I be a online coach? Why can't you be a mindset coach? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Do you know what? There was one that I can't remember where I seen this before. I don't think it was a meme. I think it was maybe something that somebody told me. I can't remember exactly, right? But it said that if you're coming up with a business idea, right? If you're coming up with some sort of a business idea and you're telling your friends, your family, and things like that about this particular idea, especially if it's a little bit out there as well, if it's a little bit more, risky, a little bit more, let's say an Elon Musk type idea, right? Like Elon Musk now, the boring company. If like, me or you now would say to our parents or family, whatever, and friends, right, I'm gonna start a company where I'm digging holes under a city so that we can create an underground traffic network, right? Do you know the response you're gonna get, don't you? Right? They're gonna laugh. They're gonna look, what are you talking about, right? But the person who, wherever I've seen this before, said, explain your idea, or think about when you're explaining your idea to your friends and family as if you were explaining how existing technology now, so like for example a phone, how it works to like a 90-year-old person, right? So you could speak to somebody who's like in a care home, maybe in the 90s or 80s or something, and talk to them about existing technology, and they're probably going to say, oh, that could never happen, or oh, blah blah blah, and they're going to dismiss it, right? Because the concept probably seems quite alien. They haven't used the technology before. So that's not to say every one of them does that, but typically they would. Like with AI, if you try to explain an AI to them or whatever. So essentially, when you're talking to like family and friends about your idea, especially if it's a little bit out there, they're probably going to laugh and joke because they can't see your vision. Not always anyway. They can't see your vision, and I think
100%.
that's key to remember is when you're explaining your idea and your vision to somebody, it's not always it's gonna be clouded in their minds. They're never going to be able to see things the way that you have and be on board with it. They might now and again, but not always.
Was it Thomas Edison that invented the light bulb, or was that him?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, imagine explaining that, like, oh yeah, I'm going to stand over here, turn this switch on, and then bam, there's going to be light in this room. Like, people would have been like, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, go and get yourself looked at. Do you know what I mean? So
with Nikola Tesla as well. So Nikola Tesla obviously created the current, when the alternating current, which is a better way of transporting electricity than what the DC current, which is the direct current that Thomas Edison created. But Thomas Edison, again, he had a bit of an interest in this as well. So it was like his ego was involved in it, right? Because he created the DC current. Nikola Tesla's working for him. He said, oh, I found a better way to do this. with
Yeah.
alternating current, and he actually sacked Nikola Tesla because he was
Tesla.
like,
Yeah.
this is my idea, and I think his ego was in that as well, because he didn't want, he loved this creation. He didn't want to think that there was a better way of
Yeah.
doing it, I think. So there was a little bit of that, but at the same time, it's kind of Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of all time, he dismissed the probably the biggest creation of all time, the alternating current, which
Yeah.
is this the world that we live in today. We wouldn't be living in the sort of we wouldn't be speaking right
Mad,
now.
isn't it?
We wouldn't be speaking right now if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that sort of
Literally.
current, most likely anyway. But if we go on to the Love Island stuff a little bit, right? Because
I'll pause you. Can I pause you there?
oh
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go
yeah,
for a wee. Yeah.
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 You
Sweet,
go, man.
mate.
You go.
Sorry about that, lads.
It's all right. I'm gonna have to. I was gonna say I'm gonna have to edit that out because I could. You got the best of it.
It was a long one, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I was sitting there laughing a bit because I could hear it, and I thought, "Fuck, I'm gonna have to edit that out." I might leave it in actually.
Yeah, why not?
No, I was gonna say so the Love Island stuff. When you said you went through like a bit of like about the depression and stuff like that, was that before you went on Love Island or afterwards?
So it's mad that I'll just go through.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was battling with depression until after Love Island. And when you go on the show, you have to have like a psych test done, and they basically ask you, have you ever battled with your mental health? And my response to that was, I don't believe in battles with mental health. In my opinion, it's just people that are seeking attention. That was my response. Yeah. But at that exact time, I was battling with depression. I just didn't know it. I just thought, I'm stressed. So my first battle with depression was when my granddad died when I was about 15. But again, I just thought that's grief. But obviously, the way my head deals with those situations, it's not just grief in a normal way, I'd say.
Yeah.
It sends me into a really negative spiral. And then I think it was come out of Love Island, then I'd say about a year after, I really, the way I describe it is, it got to sort of January after Love Island, I think. And I wouldn't say the show, don't get me wrong, there's probably a factor to it because I went on there, I had like 500 followers on Instagram. That then rocketed to 50,000 odd. Then as soon as you're not relevant on the show, that sort of drops off, your interactions drop off. At the time, I didn't really understand social media. I'd post like once a month of just like things that I liked.
Yeah.
But then I was like, why are all these, like, what, 20,000 people have unfollowed me? Like, what am I? Why do they not like me anymore? Yeah. So I'd say that was a contributing factor. But then I'd say the year after, I was setting up a business. Like I told, the business that I was setting up back home, it was like Uber, but for personal trainers.
Okay.
So let's say you're in Swansea now, it'd bring up all of the trainers that were registered to the app, whether that be yoga teachers, strength and conditioning coaches, whatever it may be. Then you choose your price range, and then it would bring up their experience, like TripAdvisor ratings, and so on. And I was setting this app up. That's the reason why I went on the show.
Yeah.
So I was setting this app up, and I told my mum and dad. At the time, I was like, well, why don't they back me? But it's a case of, well, they haven't heard of anything like that before. So why are they going to? Now I understand. Why would they believe that it worked? But in my head, I was like, well, you should support me because I am doing this. And that really added to me and my depression. And then it just got to a point where it's like, the way I describe it is like, the first time I thought about killing myself, I was driving and there was a bus on the other side of the road. And in my head, out of nowhere, it was just like, drive in front of the bus, drive in front of the bus, drive in front of the bus. But the only thing that stopped me was me saying to myself, oh, if I do that, I'm going to hurt people on the bus. There was no regard whatsoever for my own health. And that obviously, that proper scared me, because I was like, shit, like, why don't I care about me? Like, I should be thinking, no, that's a stupid idea because you're going to get hurt. And then say that happened like once a month, then over time, twice a month, 3 times, 4 times, twice a week, whatever. And then it just got to a point where I was like, the only way to escape this is just to top myself, basically. But yeah, I would say I'd battled depression before Love Island, but like, you see cases now, like Mike Falasitas, he was a good mate of mine from the show. Unfortunately, he took his life. And I think that people don't really realize, they just see these characters on telly, but what you see is not really what is going on. It's just a TV show, effectively. And what I found is, like, producers on they know how the show's going to go before you actually get on there. So it don't really matter what you're like or how you are. The narrative is already there. So you think, oh, you've got this massive opportunity. Like, in my head, I was like, I've got this opportunity to win 50 grand, which will help me set up the business that is going to help millions of people across the world. When really I was like, okay, well, they already knew that I was a bit part player, so they just dropped me in there. And that was hard to come to terms with. Compared myself a lot with people that were really successful on the show, because in my head, I was like, well, if I had won, or if I had more time in there, then I'd be doing so much good with that exposure. What are they doing? Going to club PAs, getting pissed up, la la la. But again, as you will know, like, comparing yourself to other people is a surefire way to be very miserable. So
no, that's I was going to say, that's why I wanted to speak to you about that, because you know, obviously Love Island in particular has had some stick, you know, because of the, you know, the nature of, like, with like Caroline Flack, and, you know, some of the things that have been going on with that, you know, that it's very prevalent, I think, you know, in particular Love Island, for like debilitate, I can't say this word, debilitating mental health and things like that. And also, just in general, what you said about, you know, losing followers. So, you know, you went up to 50,000 followers, you lost 20,000 followers. That's obviously, you can imagine why that is such a detrimental thing. And like, for example, some of the workshops I do with, you know, with schools and colleges and things like that, you know, there's the kids in those workshops that I've spoken to, they're really, really scared about losing followers or not gaining enough likes.
It's mad.
Like that, you know, it's very superficial.
I think, sorry, go on.
Oh, go on.
For me, like, although I have battled with my mental health, like, I am so, like, obviously when I come off the show, people was bantering me, like, giving me shit or whatever, but I'm lucky I've got thick skin. That sort of stuff really doesn't bother me. But when you have a landslide of like 20,000 people, that's a lot of people, yeah? Like, then straight away, at the time, I wasn't thinking, oh my God, they don't follow me anymore because Love Island's not on. I was just thinking,
okay, personally,
yeah, what am I doing? Like, to a point where I was like, well, I don't even want Instagram anymore, because before it was just like my photo album of my life. Like, I don't delete any pictures or anything like that. Like, it's just nice for me to look back on. I'd never really thought about, oh, well, that picture done really well, it's got this many likes, or la la la. But then when that was happening, I was like, well, shit, I need to start posting stuff that people want to see, because then that'll get me more likes, more attention. And even still now, like, I'm doing my fitness business. I'd say every week I'll get between 300 and 500 followers that are interested in fitness, but I'll still be losing like 100, 200 followers that were Love Island, which now I'm like, yeah, cool. I don't like, if your interest ain't fitness, this is what's going on here. If your interest isn't mental health, then this is what's going on here. So you're more than happy to leave. But at the time, it's just, and I weren't even in there that long. Like, imagine someone that's, for example, Mike, he was absolutely vilified on the show, like made out to be this, like his nickname was Muggy Mike. And he literally was out every single week on PAs, every night even, up and down the country, getting all this attention. And then bang, as soon as a new year of cast comes in, you are old news and whatever. And I'm not saying that is what contributed to his suicide, but I know that would be very difficult for anyone to deal with, because even with your paid posts and whatever, like, you can clearly see, and I've got mates still from the show, and even their follower count has dropped by hundreds of thousands. And I think it's not until you realize, okay, well, it's not a personal attack at me, it's just people love Love Island, and when that's done, then you're irrelevant to them. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. There was, do you know what? This is something I had to deal with myself as well, right? Like, I just realized when I noticed it was James Smith, actually. So there's a lot I took from him. One of the things he said was, when somebody unfollows you, it's just them opting out of seeing what you're posting, right? And I thought, when he said it, it's such a subtle difference, a subtle perspective shift. And I was like, fuck, because I was, same thing with me, right? If people unfollow me, I'm like, oh fuck, it's dropping down. You know, this was a while back now, do you know what I mean? But when he said it, I was like, fuck yeah, why am I worrying about that? Why am I bothered about that? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just literally them just opting out of seeing what you're posting. Like, you know, but what we do is we take that as, this person doesn't like me, or they don't, they're slagging me off or whatever. And I mean, that's 100% for more depressive thoughts, and you can keep on going with those particular thoughts when you're thinking in that frame of mind as well. You can keep thinking like, oh, everyone hates me and fucking whatever, and you can keep going with it. But no, that's sorry.
I think with that as well, like, you can get into this mindset where you're like thinking, oh shit, well, I've lost these followers. And then straight away your mind will go to like your closest circle of mates and be like, well, do they think I'm a dickhead for posting these sort of things? Am I doing the right thing? So you're not only thinking about the unfollowers, you're thinking about your close circle, where, well, I found that I was like, are my mates ripping me? But the funny thing is, what I think, especially since I've started doing my fitness stuff just over a year ago, is like, at first, your mates are the first people to be like, what the fuck is going on here? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're starting posting this, but then they're also then the quickest to come around when you're like consistent with it, and you're like, okay, this is who I am now. So I think it's just, like you say, where your attention goes, it can be very detrimental to you.
Yeah, do you know what? Just to touch on that as well, with like you said about mates. My mates, like you said, same thing. When I quit my job, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing now, mindset coaching, etc., etc. They didn't understand it, for one. They were like, oh, so is it life coaching? I was like, well, not really. No, I don't like that. I don't like life coach, because I was like, that implies I've got every fucking aspect of my life sorted out, and that's not the case. I mean, and I kind of I said that, and it was a very alien concept from, but they would slag me off, but in a jokey way or whatever. Like, some of the other groups of boys or whatever, they'd be like, oh, fucking Stevens, he's doing this, he's blah blah blah, and like, laughing and joking about it and taking the piss. But then, like you said, when they realize, oh, he's actually doing all right with this, he's earning a living, he's that he's doing well, he's getting exposure, whatever, like, it's kind of, they start to realize. And also when you don't stop as well, do you know what I mean? When they see, oh, he's not going away, we're bantering him and whatever, but he's not going away, he's carrying with this, they realize then, oh fuck, it's pointless carrying on, taking
100%. Like, when when I started posting fitness content, I was doing like 1 or 2 posts a day, I think, for the first 3 months. And then every time I was like, not nervous about what I was posting, but I was like committed to, right, this is who I am now. But at the same time, I was thinking, fucking hell, what are people going to think? Yeah. But then after I did it for 3 months, I was just thinking to myself, well, if I stop now, people are going to think I'm a dickhead because I only did it. I only did it for 3 months.
Yeah.
So that's like a driver for me as well. So I'm like, okay, well, you can't stop now because then you look like someone that just dipped your foot in and then sprinted away. Do you know what I mean?
Part of your identity, then, doesn't it? You know, when you've done it long enough. And like I get people all the time coming up to me now. They're like, "Oh, so what? So you work for yourself again now, and you're doing the coaching stuff?" Yeah. You know, and like they started people have started to talk in that sense, so people know what I'm doing now. Like, again, a lot of people don't fully understand, you know, what it is, you know, that it's about. I think there's a lot of people that do, you know, but there's some people that just they never will as well. Do you know what I mean? Some people never really what it is that we you know do when it comes to like shifting your mindset. Because like I suppose, you know, like a pre Love Island, just you realistically, isn't it? You know, would you have, you know, being open at that point to, I don't know, like the sort of coaching that you were doing now or the coaching that I'm doing? It's like, I know for a part of previous me, you know, would have been the same. Do you know what I mean? I would have been like, oh, well, why do I need that? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of.
I say this all the time. Like, if 25-year-old Nathan was to look at 29, I hate to say that, but 29-year-old Nathan now, he'd be like, you meditate, you listen to books, podcasts, like he probably would have said that I was a goon. Like, I've got I've had 2 business coaches. I've got a James Smith's business to business event next week. Like, 25-year-old me wouldn't have been investing in myself. So it's mad to think that a previous you would not see you now and be like, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. You just think, I feel like I'm such a different person from that person. But don't get me wrong, the risk taker is still there. Like, when I signed, I literally came to Australia in 2017, used up all of my annual leave I did it in January. So I used all my annual leave up. As soon as I landed back in the UK, I applied for Love Island because I was like, I'm not doing 11 months straight in an office. So I was like, I'm going to just take this risk and see what happens. But other than that, like, the way I am proactive with my mental health, the way I do understand that if I get to a point where I can't progress enough, then I do need to invest in someone or look for help or whatever it may be. That person didn't exist back then. But I guess now I see the value in doing that. And that's what we preach as well. Like, if someone's in a tight spot mentally, then you're going to preach, well, get a mindset coach and you'll improve that. Likewise, if you want to lose weight and transform the way you think about yourself, then get an online coach that's going to teach you the right way. And because we now believe in that, because that's what we do, then it becomes easier for us to see.
Do you know what I always say to people as well, right? So before I take a client on board, I'll say to them, right, you don't need my services. That's the first thing I say to them. It sounds a bit strange to do it, right? But I'm like, you don't need my services, you know. And I'll say the reason is you've got the ability to make these changes yourself. But if you want my help, I'm there to do it. But we're only doing it for a certain amount of time. Like, do you know what I mean? So if they're on a 3-month plan, for example, we'll say, right, at the end of I'll say at the end of the 3 months, like, we can extend it if you want, but essentially I want to get you to this point where you're happy with your progress and you think, right, I'm ready to keep going by myself. And, you know, I'm always there if you need to come back. But, you know, it's working up to that point, and then you go off and by yourself. And I always say that to people. It sounds they're a bit like, what the fuck do you mean, you know, at the start.
It's very similar. Like, I'll always say, in the nicest possible way, I don't want to work with you forever. Like, my analogy is always, if you get a driving instructor, you only use them until you pass your test. After that, you don't need them. So that's my job, is to get you to that test. And then I want you to just implement on your own. If you need me again, obviously call me or drop me a message. But
yeah, I'm going to
I am here.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I'm here to teach you, and then you go and do that on your own and make it work for you. Because again, like, there's a lot of PTs out there that will cling on to clients for years because they're worried about the monetary aspect. Now, I'm not saying that I am mega rich or whatever, but I just want to help people. So therefore, I'm going to take you to a point where you know everything you need to not only change your life, but your family's life. Like, if I'm helping a mum of 7 at the minute, the habits she's implementing are then being put onto her kids, which are going to improve their lives do you know what I mean? So that's the way I like to do it, in my opinion, and it seems to be working. So
yeah, no, that's good. Do you know, when mama 7, can you imagine having 7 kids?
Oh, that's this. She blows my mind. Like, she's been training with me for 8 weeks. I posted a transformation of her the other day. She, like, now people, their main objections when they come to coaching is, I haven't got time, got kids, la la la. This is a mum of 7, like 7 kids, and she is in phenomenal shape now. Not only that, like, she's bangs on so much about how much her mental health has changed. So for me, it's just an absolute blessing. But the best part is when I was battling with the reason I know her is when I was battling with my mental health, she would message me on Instagram every now and then. This is years back before I was a coach, and be like, just checking to see you're all right or whatever. And now it's like the world's gone in full circle, and now I'm like able to help her, which is just so sick. Sick. But yeah,
that's amazing. That is class.
So good.
Actually, off topic a little bit. James Smith, right? So I don't know. I think he was just absorbing his content in general, made me quit my job pretty much. Like,
yeah,
pretty much from absorbing what he was putting out there. It was between that and the book Good Vibes, Good Life. I don't know if you've read that by Vex King.
Yeah. Vex King. Yeah.
Between those two, that's what pretty much made me quit my job. Do you know what I mean? It was a big risk type thing. But like, it was just, I was just thinking about what you said at the start. When you dropped him an email, because obviously the trajectory of what you've done, and like, and what he's done as well, moving to Australia and setting up your business. And it's like, that's exactly what I was thinking, for myself. I was seeing what he was doing. I was like, right, I want to set up as a mindset coach. This is what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
How can I go to Australia and traveling? And I want to be, it's the same sort of trajectory. So I think that's why I've kind of resonated with it.
I didn't even know he was out here, to be honest. But then it was literally one of the first weeks where I actually got sacked from that recruitment job before I went full-time online coach, because the passion weren't there. It was mid-COVID, whatever. It definitely is not the first job I've been sacked from. But again, if the passion's not there, I'm not interested. But I just went into a coffee shop in Bondi, and he was literally just sat there, and I was like, rah. So I just bought him I didn't even go up to him. I just said to the person there, I was like, do you know what coffee he gets? Just take him over a coffee from me, and just, if you can say, like, thanks for inspiring me to do what I do now, like, that would be sweet. But now he's like a mate of mine, which is just even more crazy, I think. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird how the world works, isn't it?
It honestly, it is. Like, what I think, right, is the world and what you're doing in your life, when it's the right thing for you, when you're on the right path, things just seem to kind of fall into place, right? I'm a big believer in that, right? The person who's taught me most about that, I don't know if you know her, Sarah Maxwell. So she lives in
Lawrence's girlfriend.
Yeah, of course. So Sarah, honestly, big inspiration for me, like, in terms of her mindset, the stuff she's done. And she was the first person that told me about, like, synchronicity and stuff like that. So, like, meaningful coincidences and whatever. Like, I've taken a lot from, you know, what she's done. And it's only recently where I've really started to see it, you know, because I've got that trajectory, the right trajectory in life. And I think like the same with you as well, you know, like you said, the stars seem to line up, don't they? And, you know, like that you walk into a coffee shop when James Smith's there and he's been an inspiration to you. Do you know what I mean? That's like, what are the chances of that realistically, you know?
I think as well, I do believe in what you're saying. Like there's been times, especially when I was first starting out, like I say, I like to get to my clients to this point, and then I want them to go and do it themselves. I remember I had like 1 month where I think 4 clients just came to the decision that they was there already, which was absolutely fine. Like for me, I've done my job, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, shit, that's a lot of my clients going. But then because of there was a little bit of panic, but then it just literally comes back round, and then more clients come in or whatever. It's not
linear.
I don't know. It just seems to, yeah, exactly, and it just seems to happen as it's meant to. But again, as well, I think it's about you're chasing it, because so I've seen him in the coffee shop, went back for a coffee there a few times, whatever. Then I asked him to come on my podcast. So I was sort of, although it's happening organically, I was like, also, well, I'm going to make the most of this opportunity. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think, yeah, it's just, like you say, it's just mad how things seem to just, even when you can't see how it is going to work, it does work. I think that's the same case with like money as well. Like I used to worry so much about money. I used to be like, oh, I'm skint, I've got nothing. And then something would happen. And then I'd be like, well, that worry was pointless. Like, no matter how skint you've ever been, you're here now. So everything will be all right. Do you know what I mean?
100%, honestly, like that you've hit the nail on the head. But like I've said that so many times, right, where, you know, I've literally been like, oh my fucking God, literally like no money. What am I gonna do? You know what I mean? How am I gonna manage this? You know, and like it's the worry, it prompts a reaction, right? So the worry you have, you know, the stress you go and it prompts a reaction. So you're like, oh shit, can I lend money from this person? Should I take a fucking loan out? Whatever. I mean, but you generally you always figure out the way to do it. You know, it's never, maybe it's not an ideal circumstance, like, you know, if you need to take a loan out or something like that, sometimes that's not the ideal thing. But like the money worry, then as long as you're sensible with it, then, you know, the money worry goes away. But like I've learned that, you know, things do seem to work out in the end. They really do. I think you've just got to like, and again, sounds a bit cliche, but trust the process. Gotta just
100%
to yourself and think, right, I know it's all going to work out.
100%. Like, but I think when people say trust the process, I think that sometimes you get drawn like, oh yeah, you just think that you're going to be like, oh yeah, I trust the process, and then boom, no, you're still going to worry. Do you know what I mean? There's still going to be like, oh fuck. But then it does. I don't know why, but it just does always work out as it's meant to. And another cliche saying is like, everything comes to you at the right time, like when you are ready to have that. And I do massively believe in that. So whenever I've wanted to go to the next level and maybe it hasn't happened at that point, when it does happen, I'm like, okay, well, that's why it didn't happen then. And I've learned this. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. It's things don't resonate with people until certain points as well, right? So like you said there, the right thing happened at the right time. This happens with me with books and certain things that I absorb. So you could read a particular book and you might take some lessons from it, right? But it might not really resonate with you deeply until you read it the second time in a different point in your life. So for example, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Have you ever read that book?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, you need to read that or listen to it. Yeah. I'm
massive on Audible.
Mate, it's brilliant. I've listened to it twice, right? So the first time I listened to it was probably like, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe something like that, right? So it was quite a while ago. And it's basically a fable about like a Spanish shepherd or young shepherd who follows his dream. He goes on an adventure to to find his treasure, to find his personal treasure and stuff like that, right? So to basically find his purpose in life and things. It's only like a 4-hour lesson, so it's quite a small account.
That's what I like.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's brilliant. But it's like it's quite. I remember it it got to me a little bit at the end. Like I don't know if I think I got a little bit emotional listening to it. Because it's the way it is. It's just it's a nice listen. But it didn't. I took some lessons away from it, right? But the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I literally thought, you know what? I need to listen to that book again, and I don't know why. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of. I remember it was a nice book, but I thought, I don't know why. I just need to listen to it again. So I listened to it again, and I was just like, oh my fucking God. I was like, it just resonated with me at such a deeper level, because it's about finding your personal legend, your purpose, essentially, right? And when I realized, fuck, I'm literally doing that right now, and that's what they're talking about in the book, essentially, it just resonated with me at a completely different level. It is just a really, really good book. I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. But I think that we all do that. There's different things. It comes with people saying stuff to as well. So I can say something to you right now, might not resonate, but someone else will say the same thing to you 2 weeks later, and you'll be like, "Oh, fucking hell! That's exactly what I've needed to hear." Like,
I even get that. Like, I'll watch YouTube or whatever, or I'll flick on a film, and I always seem to feel like when I walk into the room or when my attention is peaked, they're telling me like a life lesson that none of the rest of the film is about. But I feel like it's like zoned in, and I'm like, well, this is why I'm watching this, because it's telling me that lesson or whatever. Do you ever get that?
Mate, when you said that, the film I'm thinking about right now is The Founder with Michael Keaton. It's about the guy who franchised McDonald's.
Oh, right. I haven't watched that, but
mate, get that film on. It's brilliant. So exactly what you said there. That's the same thing for me, right? Because he's like, at the start, he's a traveling salesman. He's tried loads of different ideas, and he's got basically at one point when he comes across McDonald's, so McDonald's is already established, right? But it's just a singular restaurant, and he wants to basically buy into the franchise. He's going to banks with this big, business plan, and he's trying to sell it to them, and they're like, "Oh, wait, you're the guy who was trying to sell us the blah 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 blah," and they're laughing at him like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that, blah blah blah." And he's getting laughed out of these places for his other ideas that he's come up with. And even his wife is like, "When are you just gonna settle down?" And he's like, "Never." And when I watched that the first time I watched it in the cinema, I was like, "Fuck, that resonates with me so much," because that's exactly what I did for a long time. And honestly, it's a really good thing. That when you said that, that's why I was laughing. I knew straight away that's the one that came up in my head.
Yeah, massively. I think that's a big thing as well. A big takeaway that people can have is you'll always be knocked down in life. It's not smooth sailing, but it's just having the resilience. And again, it comes down to them just knowing. When you just know, like you literally cannot be stopped, in my opinion. Like, you can, don't get me wrong, you can have shit days or whatever, but you know that you're going to get yourself back up and go again. And that's so powerful.
Nothing stands in the way of someone or something that won't let themselves be stopped. Like nothing will, there can be barriers, there can be roadblocks, but if you're willing to keep pushing through them, finding ways around them and keep going, there's nothing that wants to stand in the way of that. People don't want to stand in the way of it. It doesn't happen. You literally, and I think that's the thing. If you keep pushing, there's somebody I spoke to recently who wants to become a medic in the military. So I'm actually having her on the podcast soon. So, she wants to be a medic in the military, but because of, previous health issues from when she was a bit younger, so she had anorexia, because of that, they wouldn't let her go into the military, even though it was not, it was mentioned on her problem. It was mentioned on her kind of medical, doctor's
history.
Just because she mentioned it at one point, not that, when she actually was going through it. So it was never, it was never treated for it. But anyway, they stopped her from going in as a medic and she wanted to help people in the military. That's what she, in different countries and stuff, that's her, she knew that's what she wanted. and she didn't take no for an answer. So she appealed the decision, appealed it. She had to speak with a doctor and get all these different things sorted and whatever. She went back months and months and months, and then she got in there and got accepted. And it's like that's a prime example of persistence and not letting things stand in your way, because so many people would have just rolled over and gone, oh, fuck it, I'll have to find something else, and settled for something just because they didn't want to chase it a bit more when they knew that's what they wanted.
100%. I think like my first ever boss, he was an interesting character, but his saying always was persistence beats resistance. And that if anything stuck with me from him, it is just that saying, like, as long as you just keep going, keep working, like, you're just gonna get there.
That's like a call center, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was straight out of recruitment.
I was gonna say that sounds like a thing to say.
Yeah, 100%. But no, I believe that massively. Like, you just gotta, if you take time away, because a lot of people's dreams die because they set a time limit on it. But if you take time away, like, you're never gonna know. I never know when I'm gonna be taking on a client. Yeah, it just happens organically, or like someone will message me or whatever it may be. Like, you don't know that. But if I was to say, right, in X amount of months, I need to have X amount of clients, otherwise this isn't working, then my time limit is constraining what I can do. But as long as I know where I'm going, it doesn't really matter how long it takes to get there, because I know I'm going to get there. So
that's that. No, I mean, I love that. Honestly, it's you, as long as you've got the clarity, like you said, the clarity of vision, the role is what you enjoy. Then it's just day in, day out. It doesn't feel like work, I suppose. And
at all.
Funny enough, I was going to ask you about this. What's with what you're doing right now? What's your kind of 10-year vision or 20-year vision or something? Like, what's the do you think that far ahead, or do you like just take it day at a time and stuff? Do you know?
So obviously, I love what I do now. I love helping people one-to-one. The reason why I do what I do is quite simple. Like, I want to change people's lives, but at the same time, personally, I want to be free. So I want to be able to, obviously COVID's a bit shit at the minute, but I want to be able to be wherever I want to be and change people's lives. So that's my two drivers. But the end goal for me is, or I say the end goal, I don't think there's ever an end goal, but what I envision for myself is I want to create courses for kids in schools to teach them, so similar to like maths, but teach them about calories. So whether that is they get a slice of pizza, they need to make up a day's worth of calories, and they've got pictures of like a slice of pizza, an apple, whatever it may be, and just teach them from a very young age about nutrition to a level where it reduces worldwide obesity. Because I think the issue with, like, if you was to ask, my dad's a chef, but if you was to ask my mum about calories, carbs, proteins, fats, whatever, she'd be a bit like, well, this is just dinner. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And I think that because of that lack of understanding, or people think it's hard to get in shape, then that's why there is a huge obesity level across the world. Whereas I think if you can implement something to a very young age to people where they do understand this, then it will bring them down. Because a lot of people think they need to restrict to get in shape, when you don't. You just need to be good the majority of the time. So I'd say the end goal is to get into schools starting across the UK, but then across the world, and teach them about how to be healthy, as if it was a maths lesson or something, or even a bolt on to maths, because it is just numbers at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? So
mate, I've said this, like, mental health awareness, well, actually not even mental health awareness, but general psychology, like an understanding of thoughts, emotions, physical feelings and things like that, like the things that we, you know, that you go through in life naturally, they're not really taught, you know, in schools about how to understand them and to go through them. It's just expected, you know. So psychology is not, it's psychology is something that you do when you go to college generally. It's not something you learn about in school, you know, incorporating mental health into that as well. But like nutrition, I've always said this, right? Now I'm terrible when it comes to nutrition and diet, right? But I do, like, if that's out of choice, do you know what I mean? I do understand, like, if I needed to be strict and to regiment myself and to do stuff like that, I know what I need to do. But there's not enough awareness about that. There's not enough, you know, of an integration within, you know,
I think
school culture, I think. Do you know what I mean? There really isn't.
I think 100% that. And I think that a lot of people just think that if they're trying to get in shape, it's all or nothing. But that is, like, that's not the case. Like, yes, I've been getting training or whatever for 12 years, but I'm in the best shape of my life now, and I have the most flexibility with my diet, going out every weekend, having a drink, whatever it may be. But that's just through my understanding. So for me, I really want as many people as possible to understand that it's not an all or nothing process. It's just being good the majority of the time, but enjoying. Like, if you look at a weekend is 2 days. Like, that is time to have fun. But then the 5 days, you know what I mean? Not be chicken and veg, but just have more of an understanding around what you're consuming, to then, you don't need to walk around like Arnie, let's be honest, but you can be so healthy. And that sort of stemmed from, my passion for this stemmed from, as I mentioned earlier, like when my granddad died, I just knew that he died when he was quite young. So I knew that I wanted to help people live longer, so he didn't have to go through the pain that I was going through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, my plant come into the fucking
That's
thing.
all right, mate.
I've literally got one of these seasonal affective disorder lamp things on. I don't know if you can see that. It's because it's been on me for so long now. I needed to move it a little bit because it was just bright as tits. No, I know exactly what you mean, mate. I think that, and you know what? You've touched on a really good point there as well. When things happen to us, or we're in certain situations, I think that's when we start to discover our purpose. So, like what you've said there, obviously, you know, an external circumstance, you know, your grandfather passing away, has caused you to feel a particular way about, you know, a certain area of existence, or say a certain area of life. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, like
100%.
You know, longevity. Like, and
I would not. I don't know. When I speak to people that have experienced sort of like suicidal thoughts or whatever, or battles with their mental health, the thing that happens so much is people will always say, like, I'm glad that I went through that. Like, for me, I am so glad, and it's cringy as fuck, but what I say is I had to get dragged through hell to get to heaven. Do you know what I mean? Because the life that I had before battling with my mental health, it weren't shit. Like, I had a good life, but it just wasn't the life that is meant for me. Whereas after that battle with mental health, I was like, okay, well, it's in my control to change whatever I want to change and get what I can and make the best out of life for me, because no one else is going to do that for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, people can want the best for me, but unless I decide this is what I want, then it's just not going to happen. So I 100% believe, like, even if at the time when you're going through hardship or whatever, you can't see the purpose of it, it is there to, there's like that analogy with the bow and arrow where, like, you can't fire an arrow without pulling it back. Yeah.
I've never
So
heard that, actually, but
you haven't heard that one,
I know what you mean, though. No, I mean, this is a big thing I talk about. You know, so like with some of the workshops I run and things like that, it's you've got to go through. Well, when you go through that hardship, when you go through it, like, a lot of the time we look at it and think, it's just a shit time in my life. We don't always think, there's a lesson in here for us, you know, especially when we're going through it. You know, when we reflect back on it, you know, most people are able to see, oh, you know, this is how I've learned about this, or this is why I'm doing this, or like, this is how I feel that way about something. Some people are able to like reflect on these different experiences and understand that. But
Yeah.
you're in the midst of it, you know, not many people are thinking, fuck, there's a lot of lessons I could be learning.
Yeah.
I've got that point, and I'm guessing you're very similar in that sense. Like, I've got that point where I'm going through something shit, even if it's something external, right? Like somebody passing away, for example.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, right, what lesson can I take from this? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and even
100%.
though, you know, someone passing away, you can't help, you know, we can't help that. It's completely outside of the, you know, the remit of your control. You know, and often there's not that, you know, it's not to say that it's happened for a reason or anything like that, but
Yeah.
you've got to try, and you can't always make sense of it. You can't always make sense of it, but what you can do is think, right, you know, the fact that they've, you know, maybe, you know, died at a young age, I'm going to take the lesson that I need to, you know, appreciate my family more, appreciate my friends more, and live more within the moment, because you don't know what's around the corner. And I think
Yeah.
those are the sorts of lessons you can take from what would generally just be seen as a very negative, you know, and hurtful situation in, you know, in that sense. Does that make, do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. 100%. I think that is, in my opinion, bang on. Like, it's no negative is actually a negative. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
that is
only when you
it's
choose to see it as one, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you can see anything as a negative.
Yeah.
I honestly think you can see anything as a negative. Like, a lot of people, obviously, I'm not bashing anyone that feels this way, but UK lockdown is a lot worse than what it is over in Australia. But then I'll see people that has been the springboard for them to go and create something massive for themselves, which is, it's just about, okay, well, this is a shit situation that I'm going to turn into a positive. Yeah. And that's not knocking anyone. Like, I know it must be so hard and whatever, but at the same time, it's your perception of that situation, especially in my industry. Like, you've got people like Courtney Black that have, I think going into the first lockdown, she had like 200,000 followers. Now she's up to like 900K or 800K. And that's just from doing live workouts because everyone's at home. And what, do you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, every negative can be spun into a positive. It's just your perception of that.
Like, let's look at the heat in Australia. So, you know, a lot of people would say, oh, it's lovely and warm in Australia. Some people are going to say it's too fucking hot in Australia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
that was me yesterday. There's literally been floods over here for the last like 10 days.
Yeah.
It's not stopped raining, like torrential. My flat was flooding, whatever.
I see
yeah, yesterday, 27 degrees. I literally went outside. I was like, this is too hot. This is too hot. Get me back in the flat.
Funny enough, actually, there's again relevant to this, right? So, because I've been going in the sea every day of winter, like, earlier on we were sunbathing, right? So I went down for a sea dip. We were sunbathing, right? And bearing in mind, in Swansea in March,
in Wales,
it's probably like 7 degrees. It's probably like 7 degrees, 8 degrees, right? Well, maybe a little bit more than that with the sun, right? But it's not 24 degrees sunbathing weather. Do you know what I mean? But we just come out of the water, sat there, then top off sunbathing. Like, most people would look and go, "You're fucking crazy!" Like, what are you doing? And we were laughing about it because we were like, "What are we doing?" Do you know what I mean? But it's you know, it's the contrast. You know, we've exposed ourselves to the elements. So then, because we've you know, because it's getting that little bit warmer now, to us it feels tropical. So you want
to enjoy it.
Yeah, in the summer, mate, I'm not going to know what to do with myself. I'm going to be like, it's going to be like 26, 23.
Literally.
I'm going to be like, no, this is too hot. Like, you know, just because
I'm melted.
Used to that. Like, I don't know, but no. You said earlier as well, Australia. So you said about starting it in UK first, like the future courses and stuff you're looking to do in schools. Do you plan on staying in Australia forever, or or long term would you want to come back to UK?
I am I like to always move, and 1 second, Sam, can you do that in a bit? Sorry, mate. I like to see new things all the time. So as much as I love Australia, it's not going to be, it's a base for me for now, but I will move to different areas of the world. Like Dubai interests me, Bali interests me, going to Canada interests me. So yeah, it's not, I don't like to be rooted. And that's what I've realized from a young age, is I like to just see and experience new things all the time. If I don't, I feel like I'm stagnating. And therefore, if I don't see progression in myself, that's when I find not a relapse, I'd say, but my mental state sort of dropping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. You need to change it up and try new things. Yeah, like I'm very similar in that sense. I think, you know, doing one particular thing for life is not for me. You know, I think probably very similar, isn't it? You know, one place, one thing. You know,
I didn't ask you then. What's the 5-10 year plan for you with the mindset stuff? Mate, good question.
Do you know what? Right. I have always, for a long time, and this is way before I even came across, so Tony Robbins, right? This is one of the questions I was
I was literally thinking in my head,
I was going to say that I was going to ask you the people who inspired you, right? But one of the main ones who inspires me and always has is Tony Robbins, right? So I don't absorb a lot of his content. You know, I used to watch a few of his videos and stuff, but I looked at what he was doing and I thought, I love that. That's exactly what I want to be doing. Like I've always actually taken it further back again. So my grandfather, you know, me and my grandfather, he passed away when I was about 15 as well. And me and him were unbelievably close. So again, a very, you know, a big dent, big hole in my life when that happened. But a film that I remember us watching together was Good Will Hunting. You seen that?
Yep.
With
Good Is that Hunting. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck and Robin Williams.
Oh right, okay,
yeah, Robin.
Oh yeah, Robin Williams is he the teacher?
He's the teacher slash counselor. Yeah. And the relationship that he had, obviously, because he turns around, like Matt. For the people who haven't watched this film, you know, Matt Damon is like a bit of a naughty kid. You know, he's a boy genius, but he's also very like he doesn't want he's just like, you know, fighting all the time and getting into trouble and shit like that. And then, you know, Robin Williams is like a teacher slash counselor or whatever, who is trying to pull him out of that hole and, you know, and get him into a, you know, a better mental place or whatever. But what I loved about that, right, is after on their second meeting, he says, right, we're going for a walk, and he takes him to the park, sits him down a bench, and you know, he gets through to him when he's taken him out and had that kind of conversation. And I always thought back then, I was like, you know, I'd love to do something like that. But for a long time, I was always looking at like counseling and all that kind of stuff. I thought, well, if I go through and do all these different, you know, go to uni and do all these different qualifications, I don't want to just be sitting in a room talking to someone. Like that's the kind of way that I'd want to be helping people, is taking them out in nature and doing that kind of stuff. So it was a long time that I thought about that. And then obviously Tony Robbins, the public speaking, standing up and talking to, you know, a high volume of people in one go and making a difference. Like that is always the kind of trajectory that I've saw myself going in way before I'd even tried it. And I thought, and I just kind of maintained that vision really. And it's only, you know, like
I'd say for me, like when I was younger, I was always loved sports, and I always used to like visualize me scoring a goal at Wembley or scoring a try at Twickenham, whatever it would be. And now, obviously, being exposed to like different events where you can speak and stuff like that, like for me, I think that'd be, like you say, like how amazing would that be to see a room of people that are there to absorb what you have to offer. I think that is just the pinnacle, really. Like it's nice to obviously have the social media interactions and whatever, and very grateful for that. But to have an actual room of people where you're spreading a good message that they're going to have such big takeaways from is just next level.
Mate, 100%. Like it's there's a buzz you get off it, isn't it? You know, when you know that your words or your actions have made a difference to somebody else, right? Like that is what I really I really get a buzz off. So like I've got a year wall planner for there, right? I've talked about this before, but I've got a year wall planner for there. And I give it a big blue X for every day that I've made an attempt to positively impact someone's life, right? So that's when I get my big blue tent. If I've put a bit of content out there which somebody can receive and take something from, if I've done a one-to-one session with a client, if I've done a workshop, if I've done, something, or if essentially it helps if you get social proof. So someone says to you, oh, you've really helped me today and blah, 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 something like that. And then I get to put my big blue X on the thing, right? So you could even if it comes down to buying someone a cup of coffee and things, right? But it's called the Seinfeld Strategy. So Jerry Seinfeld, again, I talked about this in a video before, but like for the people listening, and for yourself as well, like there's Jerry Seinfeld, obviously one of the biggest comedians of all time, created Seinfeld, the sitcom. I think 1 year he earned like 250 million in 1 year or something because of how big Seinfeld was. But there was a young comedian that went up to Jerry Seinfeld at the backstage of a show and said, like, what advice would you give to someone starting out in comedy? And he said, get yourself a big year wall planner and a big red marker. I've gone for blue just because everything else in my fucking room is blue and I like blue. So I just gone for blue. But he said, get a red marker and a year wall planner. He said, choose one thing that you're going to do every single day. And it's got to be something that's easy enough that you can do on the days that you don't want to do it, but simple enough that it's still, or meaningful enough that it's still moving you forward. Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, obviously, you can put a big red X on there, but the trick is you don't break the chain, right? So his one in particular, Jerry Seinfeld, was to just write jokes. It could have been one joke, it could have been 10, it could have been 100, it could have been good, it could have been bad. It was just to write jokes. And essentially, like what we talked about earlier on, is the consistency of a particular practice. That's something I integrate with all my clients now, and that's why I try and get them to build at least one consistent habit, even if it's like making the bed, just something as simple as that, because you can build on that.
I think you've mentioned twice about making the bed and said it's a simple habit. I honestly think that is one of the most crucial habits in a day, because I've got a saying, never miss a Monday, but in the same way, making your bed is the first thing that you have to do in the day. So if you turn around and say, I can't be bothered to make my bed, you're setting yourself up for a day of, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
So therefore, although it is something so easy, it is something that you just have to do it, because otherwise, like I've got I know it sounds stupid, but I've got like, those like window wipers. I've got one of them in the shower, like for when the suds are on the glass or whatever, and I wipe it down. But on the days that the bed ain't made, I'll be like, oh, I can't bother to wipe down the shower today. And then that just compounds into a day of, oh, well, and you probably won't even realize it. But what I've found is if you start with, for example, this week, the reason why I haven't swam as much is on Monday, I snooze my alarm. I never snooze my alarm, but on Monday I snooze my alarm, which set me up for snoozing my alarm on Tuesday. Do you know what I mean? It's just mad that
it's the
smallest things.
Yeah.
Just literally, it's like a domino effect, but the dominoes get bigger every time.
And that's it can work on the other end of that as well. So like, like you said, the small little actions that you take over they don't seem like much, but over the course of time, they compound to be something big. But like you said, the compound effect is like, I don't know, have you read the book?
I'm getting quite a few. I'm going to have to start dropping names of books that I've listened to.
I was going to say the compound effect is another really good book, right? Honestly, like it was my mate Jordan Thomas. Actually, have you met Jordan Thomas? He's in Sydney as well. Hangs around with a few of the boys out there. Like, but he told me about the compound effect. It's not just about compound interest, like as in for the financial aspect about it, but it's about compounding things in life, like in a negative way or a positive way. And I think one of the examples it gives is, let's say you've got Tom here, you've got Josh here. Now, Tom is, like let's say Tom and Josh, they're both drinking, they both go out and partying on the weekends and whatever, and they're both working in particular jobs. But then let's say Tom up here he starts listening to audiobooks and he starts training 3 or 4 times a week. And let's say, you know, the other guy down here, Josh, he doesn't, right? So Tom's just learning a little bit and whatever. Like, so they're on the same path, the same age maybe and whatever, but all of a sudden you've got this one up the top who's just slightly making that incremental increase. And it might not seem like much at first, but over the course of a couple of years, you're talking his trajectory's gone up here. So the people listening,
Yes.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my hands, but you know, basically you got, you know, this guy then who's going right the way up here, they're slowly moving up, and then you got the other guy who's just going on a flat line essentially. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of it's those small incremental changes that you make and then compounded over time, you know, through being consistent, that makes the big impact in your life.
But I think as well, like, something that should be said on that topic is, like, patience is a key part to being consistent as well. Like, for example, I'll meditate. I should probably meditate more, but I try and meditate 5 times a week for 5 minutes. But then I feel great after an individual meditation, but it would be ridiculous of me to think that one 5-minute meditation is going to completely change my mind or get all of the benefits out of meditation. It's going to be compounding that over time, which then gives me more clarity of thought, which then I will see the benefits of the meditation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that people lose sight of that. Like, I've trained for 4 weeks now, I should have lost 3 kilos. Like, that can happen, but it's not necessarily the way.
That's why, in particular, you know more about this than me, but like, you know, measuring on a scale for your weight is not always the best way to do it. You know, it's
the worst. It's the worst one. I always say this, like, I'm 100 kilos. Yeah. If you used to put 100 kilos on a set of scales exactly the same next to me, both scales are going to tell you that there's 100 kilos on them. Like, it's not going to say one's a human or one's concrete. It just says 100 kilos. Like, people that get fixated on scales, like, that is your overall weight. It's not telling you your fat, your muscle. It's just telling you that you weigh a certain number. And like, some of my best transformations have been people that have stayed the same weight, but they've just completely like, I'm a specialist at changing people's body composition. So that's what a lot of people like to say, lose weight and tone up. Like, that's what I do. And straight away, the first thing I say is ignore the scales, because they will only make you feel shit about. You'll see no change on the scales, but you'll look at yourself in the mirror and you'll be a completely different shape, but you'll ignore that because there's no movement.
100%.
So, but it's that's a learned thing as well, because like, when you grow up, you see your mum and dad weighing themselves, so you're like, oh, well, that's how you tell if you're in shape or you're out of shape. When really, like I say, it just tells you it just tells you a number. It doesn't tell you what is on the scales. And I'd like to think I'm very different to concrete.
Mate, that's such an important point, that is, honestly. And you know what, just like one more question, because I know we've gone on for a good while here. We've done 2 hours already, I think, haven't we?
Is it?
I think we've done about
not
2
bad.
hours.
Yeah.
That is good going. But I was going to say one more thing. So social media. Okay. So like, now we touched on this a little bit earlier on. So like you said, obviously when you had the 50,000 followers, you went from 500 to 50,000, come back down to 30,000. So like obviously you've got the term influencer, right? So obviously an influencer typically, I think, is seen as someone who's got like a larger social following, who's able to influence, like, purchase, or, you know, influence people to make a particular decision or whatever, right? Now, obviously what you're doing is not necessarily that, isn't it? Because you're running a business, you know what I mean? So you're running a business, although you are influencing people to change their bodies, to change their minds, and things like that. Like, what do you think an influencer should be like? So what, you know, when you look at it, you know, people, influencers now, like, what do you think an influencer should be? Do you know what I mean? So like, for example, you've got, let's say it's obviously James Smith, you know, as an example, but then, you know, what would you look at those sorts of people then and still say, right, that's somebody who is an influencer or should be an influencer? What's do you know what I'm saying? What do you think?
Yeah. So for me, like, you mentioned it there, that you've got your blue cross, every day. Every day, the first thing that I write in my day planner is add value. Yeah, I want to add value to someone's life every single day. Like you say, that could be me just having a longer chat with the barista at my cafe. That could be me putting out some content. That could be someone messaging me about my podcast or listening to my podcast, whatever it may be. And not in a cocky or arrogant way, but there's a lot of fitness influencers out there that will post pictures of them with their tops off, abs out, and it'll be like caption chilling by the pool or whatever. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I will put a picture out with my top off or whatever, but within that I try and inspire people. I'm not just saying, look at me, here's 10,000 likes, class. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you're an influencer. I wouldn't say I'm an influencer myself, but I don't feel like you've either got people that want recognition or gratification from other people. So that's the people that just chill, abs out, cool, like I look great, like my shit, wish for my body, and then I'll just ping you a plan that goes to everyone. Or you've just got people that actually want to give you valuable information. Like, I genuinely don't believe that I would have Instagram if it wasn't to put out a message. Like, there was a point when I was thinking about deleting my Instagram, and I'm so glad I didn't now, because it is a great platform for me to tell people to get fit in the right way, to get out of the cycle of going on a diet, losing weight, putting the weight back on, going on a diet, because that's just going to turn people into these, oh, I'm just one of those people that don't lose weight. It's like, no, you're one of those people that have tried to lose weight in the wrong way, but you can, and this is how you do it. So for me, an influencer should always just be looking to add value to someone's life. Like, if I post a picture of my abs, that is giving no one value. It's all it's saying is, look at me, look what you haven't got, look what you want. That's not helpful for anyone. Do you know what I mean? So
that's perfect. That's literally when I asked that question, right? So like, that is exactly the answer I was looking for, right? Because like, obviously I've seen your content, like that is, and like, I didn't know if you knew that's what you were doing. Obviously, when you're putting it up, you're putting the different things up, you're adding value in the context of whatever you're putting up. The post you put up is always, you know, it's not just like you said, topless photo type thing. It's like, right, I'm adding value in this post. And I think that is the difference, is like between what an influencer should be really is. It's not just putting up a post, doing your thing. You know, you're adding some sort of message into that post that's going to positively impact somebody in some particular way. And
100%.
You know, the nature of what you're doing is fitness. It should be maybe down that sort of route. Do you know what I mean? It's perfect.
I don't think like, I'm not saying that I'm this all-knowing human that fucking is, you need to live your life this way. But what I do know is I'm fucking good at getting people into a healthy state of mind, a healthy body, looking at themselves with kind eyes. So that's what I'm good at. I'm not going to go and tell Elon Musk how to put a rocket ship together, because I ain't got a fucking clue about that. But the shit that I do know is, someone asked me a while back on a podcast, they was like, what would you say your knowledge of fitness was? Yeah. And I said, probably a 6 or a 7. Yeah. And then they was like, well, what would you say your knowledge of fitness is compared to an everyday person? And they was like, it's going to be a 9 or a 10, because I'm always a believer, I need to just keep learning. So that's why I'd say I'm a 6 or a 7. But compared to an everyday person, it is going to be a 9 or a 10. I do know so much more than them. And therefore, in my opinion, it's my duty to give that to as many people as I can. Like, because without your health, you're fucked, really. So, 100%. Yeah, I'd say that's really, but my goal isn't, I wouldn't say, my goal isn't to be an influencer in the sense like, I want all these followers or whatever. I'd say the reason why I want more followers is because then I can help more people with bettering their lives.
It's a byproduct, not, you know, it's something that you should get as a
exactly.
byproduct rather than something that, comes first, isn't it? Because I think that's the trouble a lot of the time. People, especially kids want more followers, not, you know, but it's just the egoic aspect of it.
Exactly. It's for the head. Whereas, like, my add value every day, that is to one person. Every day, that will never change. I'll always, every bit of content that I make, like I'll have PTs message me saying, "Oh, how have you done this?" or la 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 la, and all I tell them is I'm consistent, I implement, and all I try and do every single day is just add value. So as long as one person can say, "Shit, I looked at Nathan's Instagram and he said this, I'm going to do that," I'll die a happy man. Do you know what I mean? Because the way I think as well is, how many people can say they woke up this morning and they've helped someone with their journey, or they've improved someone else's life? I feel like the position we're in, we just see that as something, of course we do it. But that's not, everyone's not doing that. Do you know what I mean? So just one person a day, as long as one person is more knowledgeable, taking a nugget or whatever, then I'm just, that's
exactly the same with me. Honestly, I say that all the time. The one thing, if I put up a post, right, and, you know, I get 10 people who don't like it, but one person who does, that's fine. That's fine by me, because, you know, one person's taken something positive away. That's my mission complete. And I think so many people want to change the world, but the easiest way and the best way to change the world or to change other people's lives is to not try and, you know, I don't know, stand up in front of 100,000 people and talk about something, you know, in that time, because you've got to work up to that. You know, you're never going to just be able to go through that off the cuff. It starts by you just making a difference in one person's life and then just repeating that process. And that's exactly what, you know, what I've done as well. But it'll lead me on to my last question for you then, mate. What would you have said to a younger, or what would you say now to a younger version of yourself? So something that you've learned, right? The key kind of lesson that you've learned that you would
I would say this is something that I'm actually pushing quite a lot at the moment, because it is quite a big realization, and it's something that I think that I really realized during my suicidal time, or the thoughts of suicide, is no one is coming to save you. That's what I would be telling, because I'd be there like, waiting for change. I knew what I wanted to do, but I was waiting for change. But no one is coming to save you. Like, it doesn't matter how much you think to yourself, I want this to change, I want this to change. Unless you do something about it, no one is going to help you until you make that decision. When you make that decision, you'll look left, you'll look right, there'll be thousands of people that'll be like, yes, I'm here to help you. But I think that it's important. Like, I'm not saying I'm this absolute world beater that's made it or whatever, but you can literally get, I believe, so much. You can get anything you want from life, but you have to make that choice yourself. And if you're happy to sit in your comfort zone or to stay unhappy in a situation, that is ultimately your choice. But you have the ability to change that. And that's the hardest step. So no one's coming to save you, is what I'd say.
I like that. Awesome. Thank you very much. And for the people listening, Nathan Joseph PT on Instagram. So Built in 100 is the name of the company as well, isn't it, for online coaching?
Yeah.
So Built in 100, Nathan Joseph PT on Instagram. Any other socials you want to include, website or anything like that?
No, I'd run everything through Instagram. So if you want to change your body and mind, hit me up. Built in 100 is the 100 is the number 1 and then 100. But you can find me, Nathan Joseph PT, and then obviously the podcast is Stressed, Depressed, and Now Blessed on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah, I'll tag all of that into the audio and to YouTube and stuff like that as well, and on socials, man. So yeah, we'll do that. But no, honestly, mate, I'll be honest, this is probably the best podcast I've done. Because me and you think very much on the same wavelength. I think like the story as well that you shared, mate, like there's going to be a lot of lessons that people take from that. So thank you for sharing it. I do appreciate that.